Hello everybody and thank you for joining me. This is Ciara from Ciara T Designs, and today I have a simple Nuvo Shimmer powder video to share with you. So let's jump right in. So I'm going to use the background that I got in the Simon Says Stamp Crafty parcel box. I actually talked about making this card in that video. So this is kind of it coming to fruition. And it is the Simon Says Stamp Chevron pattern background stamp. And I have my Misti here and I'm just going to stamp it down in the Misti with some Versamark ink, and I'm going to use white embossing powder for this. And I have a Misti sticky mat just to keep my cardstock where I want it, to kind of have it centered in the background stamp. It's not necessary, but it's just easier when you want to do a full background of something, because then you don't need the magnet to kind of keep your cardstock in place. Alternatively, I used to do repositionable double-sided adhesive, and I would just kind of put a little bit of that on the back of my cardstock, and then that would also keep it there. So if you don't have a sticky mat and you need to do that, you can definitely try that way. I did that for a long time, so it does totally work. And then I'm just using white embossing powder. You could use clear if you wanted to. I chose white because I have more white than I do clear, so I tend to reach to it, but either direction you could do, anyway. And then I am going to heat set this. So I did find the easiest way to kind of heat set this, because it is fairly difficult to see. I do tip it, because anything that's shiny is melted and anything that kind of looks grainy or dull is not. So that kind of gives you a good idea as to whether or not your embossing powder actually melted. So that's just kind of my little tip to this. And I know that I leave the embossing in, and I know some people find that kind of boring, especially here you can't even see it, but it just feels so magical to me. So it's just kind of funny. I like to watch it when I edit, so I like to leave them in. And then I have 3 colors of Nuvo Shimmer powder here. I have let me check my list. Blue Blitz, Solar Flare, and Cherry Bomb. And I chose these 3 colors because I know that they won't make mud. Pink is not a primary color, obviously red is, but I just kind of like this blend because pink and blue will make purple, and blue and yellow make a green, and pink and yellow make orange. So you kind of get a good rainbow of colors with this. So that's kind of why I chose those specific colors. And I realized that every time I make a Nuvo Shimmer powder video, I do use these colors. So really I need to branch out, because I have other colors. These ones, I love how they look together. So they are kind of my go-to, but I have other colors. And then I just brought in a lot of water. I put down a piece of paper towel just to catch some of the moisture. You could put it in your splat box, although water and cardboard do not play well together, so be careful doing that. I find this just a little easier to clean up, but you could just put down, you know what I should have used? I should have used that flour sack towel. I usually forget that I have it, but I should have used that. I just completely forgot. And then I kind of push down on the paper here to stop it from curling too much. That you can do because the paper's wet at this point, right? So it kind of is a little more forgiving, and that kind of just helped me keep the color from just running off of the edge. Now, this is very, very pink. However, I really like pink, so that's okay. But if you didn't like that much pink, you could, of course, bring in a second layer of color. I tend not to, and you probably should let this dry on its own because the drying will kind of move the color around a little bit, but I don't mind it. And I was a little impatient because I love how these dry. So I got a little impatient, really wanted to see what it was going to look like. So I did dry it with a Ranger heat tool, but you can just set this aside, let it dry on its own, and you generally get a little bit less movement than what I got here. So patience is a good thing when it comes to shimmer powders, but when I make videos, sometimes I get a little impatient. So now I'm going to trim it down. I did take off probably about, I would say about a ½ an inch, I would say. And then when I cut my black mat, which you're going to see here in a second, because yes, I had to black mat this because it just makes those colors so pop so beautifully. I made this about a ½ an inch smaller than my A2 base. So it kind of gives you an idea of what I was aiming for in my layers. So it kind of gives you a slightly larger layer than I normally do, because I usually do about an 1/8 of an inch. But in this one, I did a 1/4 each layer, like smaller than the other layer. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. So you just get a slightly bigger border around the edge. And then for my sentiment, I brought in the Honeybee Thanks Buzzword dies, and I'm also going to use the stamp set because I have both, because I wanted a little sub sentiment, which you would have seen in the picture, but I'm cutting the base out of vellum and the word out of the same white cardstock that the card base is made out of, so the whites match, and then I brought in another piece of black cardstock. It's the same black I used for the matte. It's actually the little strip that I cut off of the matte when I was trimming it. So it's only like 1/4 inch wide, but that's a perfect size for the additional sentiments in that stamp set. So you're going to see me white here to emboss it here in a second. And I just brought out my art glitter glue to adhere down my thanks to the vellum layer. It's always a little interesting. You could, of course, use like double-sided tape. I could have ran this through my Xyron sticker maker, that kind of thing. I opted to just use a little bit of liquid glue, and I do have a little bit of the glue seeping out, but you can see I used the pin from the art glitter glue and just cleaned that up before it dried. And then you can't really tell that even happened. Also, the color popping through the vellum will also help to hide that. So not a big deal, but if you don't like that, of course you could, there are alternatives. I mean, you could have used like a double-sided sticky tape before I ran it through the my switch, and of course that would have already had adhesive on the back of the thanks. So I mean, there are a lot of ways you could do this that don't involve liquid glue if that's not your preference. And I did stick my Misti on top of it just because it did curl a little bit, so to keep it from curling while it was trying to adhere, I just stuck it under my Misti. And yes, it's still under the Misti as I'm stamping out my second sentiment. Yeah, I just left it there until I was ready for it. And those little pieces you see on the side that I actually trimmed off of the panel, I'm actually saving those. I have all sorts of like little leftover pieces from all these really fun coloredy projects that I've been doing in a drawer, and I'm saving them for the junk journal that I'm planning so that I can kind of bring in these just random vibrant pieces to just add. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So I've been saving them in a drawer off to the side so that I have these already cool, really pretty made pieces that I can just kind of add in whenever I want a pop of color. And hopefully that will be a series on the channel this year. I've got a lot of things on my plate at the moment, but that is the hope. I would love to have a junk journal series going on. But I also, you guys know, I wanted to start a beginner series as well, just to kind of help anybody who really wants to get into card making but has no idea where to start. And then I'm going to Mexico here in a couple weeks, and you guys know I'm opening a shop when I come back from Mexico, so just a lot of stuff on the plate at the moment, but I have plans, and hopefully I will make everything come to fruition in 2023. That's the goal, so we'll see how that goes, but that's the hope. And then yeah, I'm just going to adhere my thanks sentiment down to the kind of bottom third of the card. This is just because I really wanted the colors to shine. You could add different things. I mean, we could have brought in a different focal, but I really wanted the shimmer powders to be the focal. That was kind of my hope with this. So it's a very simple card. There's not a lot going on with it, but I think it turned out really cool and really vibrant and pretty. So I like how that turned out. I'd love to know what you guys think. As always, you know, I read all of your comments and I respond. I do get a little behind, but I do try really hard to keep up on all the comments and see what you guys are up to, and hear what you're thinking about what I'm doing on the channel. And you know that I'm always open to, if you have any ideas for a series or something you'd like me to see me work with, or a technique you'd like me to kind of try, let me know. Leave that in the comments. I read them all. So by all means, if there's something you'd like to see me add or do differently or any of those things, let me know. I'm open to criticism or thoughts on different things or different techniques or anything like that. And I did, of course, have to add a little extra bling because that is how I roll. So I brought in just these, I believe they're the Onyx crystals from Pink Fresh Studio. They came in an essentials set. That's why they're in that little circledy jar sitting there. But I think that set's amazing. So I have all those colors, but you can also buy like just little replacement packets. So you can get just the one color if you want it. But yeah, this is how the card turned out. I love it. I think that it's stunning. And I did stick one of the little pieces on the inside there just to kind of give a little interest to the inside. But yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think of how this card turned out. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.